A Maricopa County Superior Court judge recently dismissed Superintendent of Public Instruction Tom Horn's lawsuit calling for public schools to stop using a dual language program for students who've yet to master English. Here to discuss that and other public education issues is Superintendent Tom Horn. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you, Ted. We've done this many times.
We have done this over the years quite a bit, and this time we're talking off the bat about this dismissal of the lawsuit.
Yes.
Your thoughts?
Yes. So the initiative, which was passed by overwhelming majority of voters, said that English language learners shall be taught English by being taught in English, and that all students shall be in English language classrooms. And that didn't come up in the case, and the dismissal didn't involve the merits. In fact, the Attorney General's opinion that caused me to name her as a defendant expressly said she was not going to reach that question. The point of the judge's decision was that the legislature had not authorized the Department of Education to initiate lawsuits. I felt that there was an implied duty to do that because I have a lot of duties to supervise English language learning. She didn't agree, but this is going to make it much worse for those schools because the initiative provides that any parent can sue any school in the state or school district in the state, and if she succeeds, which she will because it's clear language in the initiative, the school board and the superintendent lose their jobs. They can't run up for election again for 5 years. So I tried to bring a declaratory judgment action just to have the court declare what the law was so that they wouldn't have those kind of consequences. But they chose to fight me, so now they're going to have the consequences.
But why didn't you not just sue the Board of Education? Why include the governor and attorney? I know you said there was an implied interest there, but the Board of Education would have a straight shot, would it not?
The Board of Education is a board that I serve on, and the director asked me not to, and I followed what he asked for.
Okay, interesting. You also mentioned that the initiative says X, but in 2019, the governor and the legislature said Y. They said that they got the Board of Education to come up with 4 plans. One of those plans includes dual language learning.
Right.
Why does that not apply here?
The legislation didn't mention dual language or bilingual or anything else. It just said for them to come up with models. Implied is that that'll be done legally. Nobody can overrule an initiative passed by the voters. Not the governor, not the legislature, not the attorney general, not me. I'm obligated to enforce an initiative that's passed by the voters.
So when the Board of Education says there are 4 models, they're okay. The governor signs off on this. The legislature passes, governor signs, 4 okay. One of those includes a dual language program. You're saying it can't.
They can't do that because of the initiative. Now let me just say this. The initiative has a provision for waivers where students have to learn at least a certain amount of English, and if the parents sign a waiver, then they can go into dual language. And the director of the executive director of the Board of Education told the media that he thought it was okay for me to require waivers. It was the Attorney General who said that I could not require waivers. So I don't see the conflict with the board. The conflict is really with the Attorney General.
But last question on this. There's a lot going on here, and you've on more than one occasion expressed your displeasure with the idea of dual language learning. Why? Why? Because a lot of educators think it works, and that's one of the reasons in 2019 the governor and the legislature said, Board of Education, do something, and one of those things that they did was allow for this model because they say it works.
The data totally disproved that. When I took office, they had bilingual, because my 2 predecessors didn't enforce the law, and the rate of English language learners learning English and becoming proficient in English was a pathetic 4%. I brought in structured English immersion, got up to 31%. Then after I left office, it trailed off again. So we have and we have recent data also showing that the schools that have structured English immersion do 4 times as well as the schools that have dual language in having the kids learn English quickly. Then they can go into the regular classroom and succeed academically.
Some of these tests have been questioned, some of the results have been questioned, but again, this is, I guess, my last point on this.
Well, not the first time around.
The boots on the ground, though, the teachers in the classroom say this works. Why would they say this works when it doesn't?
It's ideology, Ted. And if you really care about the students learning English and succeeding academically, structured English immersion is proven by the data to be the way to go. But some people have an ideology that contradicts that. I think the interest of the student should prevail over ideology. But on top of that, it's the law. And everybody should be obeying the law, especially the Attorney General.
The the academic focus attestation, these surveys that you said,
Yes.
I want to touch on those as well,
Sure.
because a lot of the schools just said, to heck with these surveys, we're ignoring them, we're not going to fill these things out, they're political, there's nothing good that comes out of that. How do you respond?
Not that many, actually. 77% did respond. I think those that did not respond, it's because they are doing critical race theory and they don't want the public to know it, or they're doing excessive social emotional learning, or they're doing inappropriate sexual stuff, or they're not enforcing discipline. And so that was the purpose of letting the public know. It's a matter of transparency. I have a duty to let transparency is my thing. I want to let the public know what's happening. And so for those minority of schools that did not respond, we're putting in red letters, refuse to respond. The parents will know what that means.
You say 77% responded. I've got more than a third did not respond. Even my math tells me that more than a third is not 77%.
Well, I just check the numbers. Every day we get responses.
What was the purpose? I want to get a better definition of the purpose behind Holocaust and genocide education. More than half didn't reply to that. They say that the questions aren't credible, is what the school administrators are saying, that the questions on this survey is not credible.
Well, that's obviously a small minority. You know, you've got some very ideological educators in the state. It's a small minority. Actually, I have the numbers. The most recent numbers on the Holocaust survey, I thought you were talking about the critical
I
race
was
theory.
originally talking
Right.
about it.
On the Holocaust 83% of schools responded.
Could yes or no answers, though, as they say, do they have a point when they say something like this, which is so steeped in
We put a place where they could comment.
Well, but it's still a yes or no. Why even go in that? Why do that?
To let the public know what's going on in their schools.
But could it not be misleading?
No, because we have there's a box. They brought to our attention. We said, okay, you can have a box where you can explain your answer. There are people, for example, at the Arizona Republic, who say critical race theory isn't taught in our schools. Well, those people who didn't respond, that's pretty good evidence that it is being taught in the schools.
I can't speak for the Arizona Republic, but I can say for some students and educators who say the entire process breeds confusion. Do they have a point?
What breeds confusion?
Answering these questions, telling parents that this is a yes or a no when it's not necessarily a yes or a no.
Well, but they can explain.
Well, you can explain, but you still got to do a yes or a no.
Yes, but if you can explain that it's not misleading, the parents have a right to know what's going on in their schools, Ted. That's the big fight between me and some of these ideologues.
Do they not now?
No, they don't. A lot of times they don't. They need to know if their students are being taught critical race theory, or if their students are being taught inappropriate sexual materials, if their students have excessive social emotional learning that distract from academics. When I ran for this office, I said I was going to get the emphasis back on academics and away from the distractions. These are distractions. We should have their schools teaching academics bell to bell. Every minute of instruction is precious.
But don't teachers already have to attest to that? Don't districts already have to attest to that they are teaching to state curriculum? Don't they have to do that already?
That they're teaching the standards.
Yes.
But the question is, how much time are they spending doing it? My heroes are biology teachers who love biology, history teachers who love history, and so on. And they complained to me when I was running for office that they want to teach their subject bell to bell. But the administrators, because of the social emotional learning doctrine, were making them play what they described to me as dumb games with the kids. And I promised to get the emphasis back on academics so our students do better academically and will do better in the economy.
We're running out of time, and I want to give you a chance to respond to this. We had 5 suspects indicted for defrauding the ESA, the school voucher program. The Attorney General says the program is ripe for abuse. This was an inside thing. At your department,
right.
And obviously you said that this started before your tenure, but it was there during your tenure. How do you respond to people who say, this is an example and it's probably going on even more so?
Yeah, I'm glad you gave me a chance to address that. I have zero tolerance for fraud. I was the Attorney General, and I pursued fraud. We have, when I took office, I hired an auditor and an investigator to root out fraud in ESA, and I'm the first person to ever do that. And we have, of the cases she has, which she has really more than that, the Department of Education found all but one, and the one exception was found by a credit union. The Attorney General found none. And let me tell you though, I hope they go to prison. the employees, they were employees hired by my predecessor, fired by me. But Ted, let me just tell you what's
Quickly,
really
please.
going on. This is an attack by the Attorney General on parents' right to choose. I spend 90% of my time and effort to focus on getting the public schools to be able to get better, to help them get better academic results. But even a good school doesn't meet the needs of all the kids.
It sounds like the Attorney General's attacking the lack of guardrails here. Do you think that there should be some more guardrails on this program?
Well, you know, sending people to prison is a good guardrail. Having an auditor and an investigator, we rooted it out. And let me just tell you, we have families where they have 3 kids. 2 of them are doing fine in public schools, but one of them has special needs that aren't being met, and the parents can send them to a school that does meet the needs. And the Attorney General's attempt to eliminate that parental choice is heartlessness in the service of ideology.
We got to stop you right there. Tom Horn, Arizona Superintendent of Public Instruction. Good to have you here. Always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ted. Good to be with you.